Hi everyone, welcome to the Oversharing podcast. My name is James Swam. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Opsin. We safeguard enterprises from data exposure risk in using Microsoft Copilot, Google Gemini, and Clean. I'm very excited to have with me here Amir Niaz, who is a VP and CISO at Culligan International. So Amir, why don't you go ahead and introduce a little bit about yourself, your background, and what Culligan International does.
Sure, thanks James for having me. Amir Niaz, I'm the Vice President Global CISO for Culligan International. We are a global organization, water filtration delivery services, deliver great tasting water to over 140 million people across the globe. So thanks for having me.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm a big fan of yours. I think that I've seen a lot of companies talk about adopting GenAI. We want to do this, we want to do that, but not many actually execute and do it. Culligan International is the opposite. You guys are actually one of the traditional industry that adopting and utilizing GenAI quite well. So with that said, I would love to understand a little bit more. If you could share a little bit more with the audience about your approach to GenAI. I think that a lot of time people talking about okay, so should I enable GenAI or should I just stop it, right? Because there's a lot of unknowns there. So if you could share a little bit more about your philosophy at Culligan and what's your thought on that topic, that would be awesome.
Yeah, no, good point. When we started to hear about AI, this goes back about a year and a half, 2 years ago. And AI was basically knocking on your door. And at that time, there wasn't any governance or concept around how AI is going to help a business, what tools are going to be there, and what challenges we're going to face. It was just too early stages. So we met with our leadership team, we met with our business executives to understand that there's two options. We have the tools in place, we can block it if we like for our users, or we have visibility and let users embark on the journey and understand and be in the front row seat to understand and see what and where people can see AI benefits for the business. So we decided collectively as a business that we will not block this, and we will embrace our users, and we will provide them as much guidance as we can. So we started small notifications through our SharePoint sites and internal news articles of saying that these are the guidelines. Do not upload company confidential data. Do not share something that you feel is not right, and when in doubt, ask the question. And we pointed them to cyber teams and legal teams. At the same time, we started to have this discussion, and one of the discussions was who in Culligan will own this AI topic. Since it's such a vast area, it's not just go buy Copilot licenses and enable it. That's one way of looking at it, but again, who's going to manage this environment? And as time grew, we saw the need, and we had visibility into seeing what AI tools people were using. In Shadow IT comes to mind, where people were using chatbots on steroids, and they were trying to fix a problem that maybe or maybe not existed. And some of the examples, early stage examples, were I downloaded an app that will read my email and summarize it for me. Or it will take an order. And Culligan is in water delivery business, right? One third of our organization is in service, which we call it plumbers in van, right? So they go and deliver water, they go deliver salt for people. And one third salt for water softeners and others.
Oh, okay.
So those type of things, we get orders in emails and sometimes in faxes and voicemails. So finding tools that can read a voicemail, convert that into an order. Those were early stages things. And that's where we started to say we need to put our arms around it, that how much expansion we need on this. So the first thought was we have cybersecurity policies around every other category of IT. Why not AI? Taking on that challenge to develop an AI policy when we didn't even know which direction we're going was a challenge by itself. And no one department wants to own it. So we started to talk about having a steering committee that consisted of cybersecurity, legal, our data privacy officer, and some HR and finance leaders, along with IT, to kind of come together and work on developing a global policy. Culligan is a global organization with GDPR. We follow NIST framework and NIST 2 framework. There are portions of our business that deliver commercial water drinking businesses that are part of critical infrastructure again, under NIST 2 framework. So it has its own challenges. So we consulted with a third-party law firm that came in and started to help develop a framework of policy. The initial policy was about a couple of pages long, do this, don't do that type stuff. And that was not received very well, that it needed to be expanded from our data privacy officers and legal counsels. So we ended up with a 12-page, very comprehensive policy that touches on generative AI, touches on the sensitive pieces of when you start to make decisions on based on the data that you have. That's where things get a little bit more shady and gray area, where how are you justifying those? The human intervention, who's reviewing the results out of AI? So those were the early stages questions that we had. And we knew what we knew at that time, and we also understood that this might open up doors to some of the challenges that we're not even thinking at this point. So that's the journey that led us to having a global policy, having a framework of a steering committee. And the idea behind the steering committee was twofold. One is we needed to get in front of it. We don't want to do shadow IT. We wanted to have a process in place where the requests are coming in, and we are reviewing those requests, that what problem are you trying to solve, and then have a database of those. Either we approve it or we ask further questions. And there's a lot of smart people on that committee that ask the right questions. So those were some of the examples of early stage adoption that we had.
I think that's interesting that you mentioned about like how there was a lot of excitement about GenAI in general, and even at Culligan International, where you mentioned that there's a commercial water that is part of critical infrastructures where people deliver not just water but like salt for softeners and everything, and how you guys approach it more from the enablement perspective as opposed to like, okay, let's block and stop everything, and from there kind of like, okay, if we are going to enable it, we need to have like some sort of guardrail, some sort of like policies, so that we have a consistent application of the policies across the organization, right? Because I think Culligan have so many international offices as well, right? How like talk a little bit more on like how many offices that you guys have, and what continents?
Yeah, it's a good question. Our business model is we do acquisitions. We grew organically, and 2024 we closed the year with 140-ish M&A. So we're constantly bringing in new organization, new data, new users into our environment. So that adds to the challenge of unstructured data on top of unstructured data.
Yeah.
And that's where some of the things that we need to look at is data classification. How are we managing that? Tenants, Microsoft tenants, moving data, emails, accounts. So security itself, we have a practice of migrating our new cores onto Culligan standards within 180 days, including the cyber stack. And that helps with some of it, but getting new users to the awareness of what Culligan security standards are, policies, getting them trained, onboarded, that takes some time.
Yeah.
And that's something that we just, that's our business model, and we just always working on improving that structure.
Yeah, and you have not just employee in the US, but also in Europe and other continents, which make it a lot harder for like everyone to be on the same page and follow the best practices when it comes to security in general and data governance and hygiene in general. Right? So I think it's good that you talk about like how you in the early days, how there's so much excitement, people were using shadow AI a lot of different places, and how you kind of came out and said, okay, we're gonna allow this, but you need to follow these certain best practices and best rules. And then what happened after that, right? I think you have AI steering committees, and could you talk a little bit more on like the AI use cases that you've been seeing at Culligan? So I think you talk about the chatbots and automation and different things.
Yeah, so couple of things that were early use cases were reading an email from a customer inbox where customer will place orders. We used to have agents that will open emails in the morning, read through them, place in an order into the systems. So we work with a startup company out of Portugal that was doing some early stage AI work where they would read your email, convert that into an order automatically, and if the writing or any confusion, will automatically send an email to the customer to validate, this is what I understand, do you want to place an order, do you agree? So that helped tremendously, not just speed up the ordering process, but now we overnight became 24/7.
Yeah.
Because the AI agents are working as soon as the email pops in the inbox, it's being actioned.
Yeah.
The other things was around voicemails, customers off hours leaving support calls and other things, and now we have a similar product that reads the voicemails, converts that into a Salesforce case, and then next morning it automatically dispatches the text out.
Wow, that's very high tech by that way. Yeah.
Yeah.
And in term, I think you talk about a lot on the customer front, and in terms of the internal productivity, like what are the use cases that you are seeing right now?
So internally in IT, we started to do a pilot of a Copilot, and there's some productivity gains we're seeing there where people are getting meeting minutes automatically. Before, it used to have a note taker, which is a dedicated person for executive meetings to take notes, create action plans. Now Copilot does it automatically.
Wow. Okay.
The other side of that was, like I mentioned, the ordering process, making it 24/7 and almost real time, helped with customer experience. Customers were quite happy. We are now working on some chat bots where customers can call in to get an update on their orders. We'll get their shipping dates, when the technician will arrive.
Wow.
So we're looking at a broader picture, how we can expand and increase customer satisfaction, customer experience, and it's looking very promising with multiple tools that the teams are working with.
Yeah, and that one thing that I really like about how Gen AI kind of permeate across industries, like from not just like here in the Silicon Valley, a lot of talk is about like AI agents and how it's helping like tech companies to change things, but across the country, Culligan is in Chicago, Illinois, right? Like so, even across the country, we're seeing a lot of adoptions that is helping the company to be more efficient, not just from the customer front, but also like internally with the help of like what the example that you gave, like in the past there would be like a dedicated assistant that take notes of the executive meetings, and now like that is all gone, and everyone can use Microsoft Teams to kind of like do the transcription, take notes on the action items, and it's like every meeting, it doesn't have to be executive meeting, so that's like a GenAI acting as an enabler for companies, for enterprise across the industry, and doesn't have to be like software companies like what is right now in the valley. So I think that's a very interesting thing to me. So you kind of mentioned about like different challenges, and you have this steering committee to approve on a new use case, but also talk about what's the challenges in terms of data classification and data governance. So maybe what are the security challenges that you're seeing in the Gen AI area? Maybe you can talk a little bit more on that front.
Yeah, I mean, definitely the biggest security challenge is about Culligan's data. Who's got access to it? There's oversharing aspect of things, which was a problem we were living with. We knew this existed, an issue. We were not ready to deal with it. There's always, where is the data being uploaded to? Are the vendors that we're working with, are they using our data, Culligan's data, to learn and teach their own models? And how do we protect against that? So there are multiple fronts around cyber. There's always questions from legal, the contracts that we were reviewing, early stage contracts from AI vendors. Even the security tools that we were using has an AI piece to them. And being a global organization with GDPR compliance, we wanted to make sure that we are clearly understanding where Culligan data is and who's hosting it.
Yeah, I think that's interesting. So I think you kind of touched by on two topics that are very important, right? One is around oversharing data, and then the other problem that you mentioned about is around like would the vendors that I'm using use that data to train their models, and eventually someone asks question about Culligan, and the data that was fed into the model will spit out like sensitive information from Culligan's in a way, right? So I think that dive a little bit deeper into those two topics, right? So let's talk a little bit more on the first one, which is around like, okay, the vendors taking my data. Like what are the things that you've been seeing? What are you doing about it? All right, guys, we're gonna change the AI filter a little bit here. Well, actually, we got kicked out of the room, but what can you do?
Stuff happens.
Stuff happened. So, with that said, we was in the middle of conversation. We were talking about the first risk, which is around the shadow AI, and the fact that a lot of employees uploading data, Culligan sensitive data, to third-party model that you don't know, where it's going. So with that said, could you talk a little bit more on like what are you doing about it and what's the risk there? Then after that, we can talk about the oversharing, what you're working on there.
Yeah, the risk with Culligan data being uploaded is always the fact that we don't want our confidential, sensitive data to become public knowledge,
Yeah.
especially around finance. And the early adopters, they were looking at, if I have the sales numbers for this year, can I ask AI to predict what my sales will be for next year? A simple thing, but once you're uploading your data, you don't know where it's going and who's got access to it, unless you set up guardrails, right? So there's some implementations at Culligan that we did. If you look on our website, we had a chat bot that's called Collie.
Collie, okay, that's
And Collie is basically a chat bot on steroids, but we provided the data and guardrails what it can answer you. So if you ask what is a good water softener under the sink, it will give you answers based on the data that we have uploaded. But if you ask it a question about what is the best price I can get for a RO unit, it's going to say, please contact a local Culligan supplier. So that's what our thinking and guidance was to the users, that if you are looking to solve a business problem, let's get the steering committee involved so we can help you in a secure way evaluate the products and evaluate the vendors that you're working with, run them through our third-party risk management, AI governance project, and just kind of understand that we are all, including our data, is in a safe place.
Yeah, that's good. And the second risk that you mentioned previously is around the oversharing risk of data. So maybe for the audience, like, could you articulate what is oversharing in the first place, and what are you doing about it?
Yeah, oversharing is something that we discovered. In a way, we were aware of it, but this became when we launched the Copilot with a pilot set of users. And out of curiosity, people started to ask questions around what is the sales data looks like, what is HR salary ranges and stuff like that. And it was becoming very obvious that people were finding stuff that they shouldn't have access to. And the reason for that was that data classification, data governance, role-based access controls, all those things combined together, we were not doing a good job of governing the data and who's got access to what. So people have created SharePoint sites with public access. People have shared documents unknowingly, of course, and shared it with hundreds and thousands of people without knowing that what is sensitive and what's not. So that became so clear to us that we have to put a hold on our AI expansion till we get in front of this issue and how to resolve it. This is a problem, like I mentioned. This was an ongoing issue. It just fast-tracked itself to top of the priority list that we need to work on this now and not tomorrow. So that's basically what oversharing is in our data through SharePoint, Teams, OneDrive that people have stored over the years.
Yeah, I think that what you said makes a lot of sense, and it's like this is an ongoing problem. Probably you have it for decades. It's just that GenAI made it like what you said earlier is impossible to ignore, and the fact that users now getting access to a lot more sensitive data than they should have. Like in the past, like it take them weeks and months to dig through information. Now they can just ask questions about it, make things like so much easier. So with that said, like, what are the things that you're doing about it right now when it comes to oversharing?
Yeah, so one thing I want to make it clear that this is not a problem that AI caused. Right? This was a problem we were living with.
Right.
It was not very clear and open. Before it was finding a needle in a haystack, right? Now AI can do it so much faster. So
Yeah.
people ask a question, it scans through thousands of SharePoint documents and gives you the answer right away. So this is not a problem that AI caused, it's just made it very prominent for us to get in front of it. So we started to look at what is the scope of this issue. We needed to understand before we find a solution is how big is the problem,
Yeah.
and how critical it is.
Right. Right.
So we work with a couple of different organizations. We started to get from our peer networks understanding who else is dealing with this issue.
Yeah.
And it seemed like a lot of organizations were in the same boat as we were, understanding that, how do we get in front of it. So we teamed up with Opsin to give us a report out of how big is the problem before we go into fixing it. The team was great to kind of help us,
Yeah.
give us a report out of saying we are 87% risk score,
Yeah.
which means we have a whole lot of critical issues,
Yeah.
sensitive data that is publicly exposed
Yeah.
across all of Culligan globally. And then it gave us some time to double click into those issues to see what really is and the stuff that we were finding was really critical. So we knew the report that we got from Opsin is real. This issue is real, and we need to get in front of it.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's been a pleasure to work with you guys at Culligan, not just about like the risk assessment report, but also about like remediation and fixing it. So it's been quite a pleasure to work with you guys at Culligan. So we're almost at time. So we'd love to hear your thoughts about, like, for the audience who just embark on this GenAI journey and other companies, like what are the key things that they need to keep in mind, and what are your key takeaways that they should take from this conversation with you?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think one thing here is good to mention is this was an issue that was already existing. It is agnostic of Copilot or any other AI tool. Fixing it would require hand-holding in some cases, will require a deep understanding of business culture, that certain things have to be changed. People will lose access to certain things. People will have to go and individually assign access to certain files and folders. So it was a big task. So besides the point of getting a tool and fixing it, the question became, who's going to do it? And with the existing workload and the projects in flight, it became a challenge that, which department or organization is going to handle that. Between cybersecurity, IT operations, DevSecOps, and legal and compliance, where does data governance fit? So we work with Opsin in developing automation remediation process where we said AI caused this issue, and we should have AI to help us fix this issue. So we created an AI chatbot with Opsin, which now communicates directly with the users and provide them step-by-step instructions on how to fix those issues.
Yeah.
And so far it's been working great. People are really receptive. We have done enough communication explaining people why this is critical and why it's critical for Culligan data to be safe. And this is an issue that we need their help with. And people are willing to help. And we have, happy to say that we have resolved pretty much all of our critical issues. Our risk score has gone down from 87 to 14.
Wow.
And as the bot runs its scans, it finds new issues and it communicates with the people. There are a handful of individuals who have not responded, and then we reach out to them and we schedule some time with them to kind of help them remediate those issues. It's fixing a huge problem for Culligan, and it's also training our users on best practices. So in the future, when they're creating a new SharePoint site or adding folders and files, they know how to properly secure them.
Yeah, I think that's amazing, and definitely like that concept of like not just get it become like a IT and security problems, but it's become like the end user problem, so that they can help and fix and remediate that. Because at the end of it, you don't want to be that you know police to go around kind of ask people to do things, or you want people to like be aware and kind of like very aware in terms of like creating site, creating SharePoint, be taking basically take care of their own security needs. So
Yeah, absolutely. It's part of changing the behavior of your users and educating them. And I think we're doing a good job here. And in the future, with AI expansion, generative pieces of it, it is critical that our users are aware of the risks that comes with new technology, and we just have to be in front of it.
been great chatting with you, Amir. For the audience who want to reach out to you, what's the best way to reach out to you?
I'm on LinkedIn. Look up Culligan or Amir Niaz. Happy to help, answer any questions, share my journey on AI,
Yeah.
in any way I can help.
Yeah.
Opsin team is great. I cannot emphasize enough, if you're dealing with similar issues, reach out to them, do a demo. They're really great to work with.